grace upon. A heresy is not the same as bad doctrine. Bad doctrine is saying that you will be raptured mid-trib. Okay, it has nothing to do with a person losing his salvation. It's just something that the Bible does not teach. The Bible teaches a pre-tribulation rapture. Okay, Ron and I talked about that before church on Sunday. He got this long, boring video that somebody did, and this guy defended why a mid-trib rapture is correct. And out of all of his points, I think there were 7 points. 6 of them were pre-wrath, not so much. It's still mid-trib basically, but yes, it's pre-wrath. Okay. Anyway, out of the 6 points, I think there were 5.5 points that you just throw right out the window. They have nothing to do with the rapture at all. I'll give you an example of one right now. And this is what I'm talking about. Bad doctrine and heresy. Bad doctrine is saying that Matthew 24, blah, 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 for the rapture. What's the problem with that?
Well, the Jews.
He's speaking to Israel under the law. Matthew 24 has nothing to do with the rapture. Zero. If you hear somebody speaking about the rapture and he introduces Matthew 24, that guy is already wrong. You don't need to listen to him anymore. He is mixed dispensations. And I say this to people and they don't know what I'm talking about. Dispensations are what God is doing at a certain point in time in redemptive history. Jesus was speaking to Israel under the law. The law is the dispensation. He wasn't speaking at all to the Gentiles, and what he said had nothing to do with the Gentiles. Okay, wait. So, they say that no man knows the day and the hour, is speaking of the rapture. How do you know that that's not correct? We already said that he's speaking to Israel under the law, but how do you know that that's not speaking about the rapture when the pastor standing in the pulpit or sitting in the pulpit or whatever he does is referring to that? How do you know that's not correct? I told you this on Sunday because the rapture was never mentioned
prior
to Paul. Paul revealed the mystery. The rapture was never even told to anybody on the face of the planet until Paul wrote it in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. Behold, I show you a mystery. That was 30 plus years after Christ had been crucified, resurrected, and ascended. The rapture was never spoken about by Jesus, okay? So if you hear somebody defending their view of the rapture, and this is what we're talking about in Ephesians right now, that is what we call bad doctrine. He has mixed dispensations and he has come to an improper conclusion about the rapture. Paul introduces the rapture, he gives the timeline for the rapture, and he gives the details of the rapture. The ITD. Introduction, timeline, and details. That is what Paul does. So if you go to anybody else to talk about the rapture, now afterward you can infer something from Revelation, but that's long after Paul had written it. Paul gives the rapture information. Okay, so I'll read that again so you know why I went off on that rabbit trail. And yes, we have time. We need to be prepared to defend ourselves against such perverse people, and we are also expected to go on the offensive, like we just did. All of you were offended by a pre-wrath rapture. We went on the offensive against their offense, challenging them and concerning the false teachings and cutting apart their heretical words. And that's where I stopped. A heresy is something that will cause the next person down the line to never be saved. Okay? They have been taught something that is incorrect, and it is something that will keep them from being saved. When the Jehovah's Witnesses come knock on your door and they say, we want to tell you about Jesus. He's this being that God created, and he was sent to die for the sins of the world. And if you accept this being that God created, you get to go to heaven, or you get to be one of the 144,000 that goes to heaven, or one of the schlubs that stays on earth forever walking around. Okay? Wrong. Okay? That is a heresy. They have introduced a heresy into the gospel because Jesus is fully man and fully God. He is uncreated. Okay? And they now have a false Jesus. They have been presented a false gospel, and they will not be saved. Okay? That is a heresy. Bad doctrine, pre-wrath rapture, is bad doctrine. It's not going to keep you from being saved, but it sure will keep you from having your joy as you anticipate the coming of Christ. Okay?